Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Chuck. My name is Carol Grafford. I am very happy to be here today to offer the message. Today is August 24, 2025, and the title of my talk is Roots, Joy, and Defiance: What 50 Years of Living with Diabetes Has Taught Me. This talk is about different ways of being in the world as a social activist, and I'm celebrating my 50th anniversary of living with diabetes this month. And strangely, those two sentences belong together. So I hope to weave them together for you. Thank you so much for being here today. So last month, I went on a meditation retreat. The title was Roots, Joy, and Defiance. I looked at that title, and I went, I ain't going to that. And then I looked at the teachers. And one of the teachers is Peggy Rowe Ward. She's a very well-known in the Plum Village, Thich Nhat Hanh circles, senior teacher. And that was compelling. And then the second teacher listed was Kristen Johnstad, who is a very dear friend of mine who lives in Minneapolis. And I really just want to support her in any way that I can. So I signed up. I showed up. And many of the people who attend this retreat and similar retreats are social activists. So I'm in this retreat, and it's got elements that are normal and typical for meditation retreats, and it has some different elements, and that's fine. And it's a 3-day retreat, and on the second day, my friend Kristen was the lead speaker, and she spoke about defiance. And she is a social activist. And she said, we chose the word defiance for a reason. Sometimes there's a line. And we say, no farther. We must use defiance. And she considers that part of her spiritual path. And the next day, Peggy Rowe Ward was the lead speaker. And she's probably maybe 20 years older than my friend Kristen. And Peggy was speaking, and she said, you know, defiance is just too strong of a word. Maybe resistance, I don't know, there's a better word. Defiance has just way too much negative connotation that rides with it. And I thought, okay, I'm more in line with Peggy on this one. Okay. And I complete the retreat, and it was wonderful, and I was able to support my friend in many ways. And then I'm driving home. It's like a 6 or 8 hour drive, and I'm just thinking, what is it about this word defiance that I resist? Why does that word prickle me so? Why? Okay. And then I realized, okay, that was July, moving into August. Oh yes, this is, well, how many years have I had diabetes now? Oh yeah, this is 50. This is the big 50. When I was 5 years in, I was waiting for the medal. They will give you a medal, you have to apply for it. But I no longer need the medal, but 50 years is kind of a big milestone. So I was just thinking about that, and then I thought, oh yeah, I wrote that chapter in this book, My Sweet Life. They asked me in 2010 to write a chapter for this book, and oh yeah. In what I wrote, I defined basically my relationship with diabetes over time. I had been 36 years when this was written, and I won't set my book on fire, really, I won't. Okay, I just singed it a little. I defined, when I first got diabetes, I defined our relationship as enemy. We were enemies. And 8 or 9 or so years later, we were neighbors. Diabetes was that annoying neighbor. And later dancer, and later teacher. And I was thinking about what to say, and I'm just going to read what I wrote because I opened it up and it said all the things I wanted to tell you. When I was first diagnosed with diabetes, my relationship with diabetes was pretty clear. Diabetes was the enemy, and we were at war. It was a quiet war because my tactics were being perfect, and that is a quiet way of being at war. And the object was to beat the enemy, to win. I would know I was winning because I would not get all those awful things that had happened to my grandmother. Of course, it would take years to know if the awful things would happen, but I was unshakable in my belief. I would be perfect, I could do it, and I would win. And then after 8 or 9 years, it evolves to a new stage. I think I was in my 20s somewhere. I was 17 when I was diagnosed, probably in my late 20s. I no longer thought of diabetes as the enemy, but I couldn't say it was my friend exactly either. More like an annoying neighbor. I did my thing as perfectly as possible, and diabetes did its thing. We mostly stayed out of each other's way most of the time. We were civil to each other, but not friendly. It wasn't great, but it was more comfortable than being enemies. That relationship was less harsh. And then after another 8 or so years, my relationship with diabetes got a little closer. I remember reading an article in a diabetes newsletter long before about how someone thought of diabetes as their dancing partner. It came to me that this was really true. Diabetes was not living in a bunker on the other side of a hill far away, and it wasn't a neighbor living down the street. Diabetes was right there in my space, holding my hands, moving with me all the time. Like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in those old black and white movies. And that's why I started calling my diabetes Fred. Sometimes, despite my attempts to do everything perfectly, Fred stepped on my toes. Sometimes I kicked him in the shin. It happened. And later, 8 or 9 years after that, it evolved to me thinking of diabetes as my teacher. Some of the lessons that I learned at that time were to ride the waves, to let go of perfection, acceptance, to love and appreciate life, such a fragile and wonderful thing. So I started thinking about how, knowing this, when they said defiance, I heard enemy. I defied what I thought diabetes was bringing to me. It was the enemy. And I have moved past that in my own relationship with this big, awful thing. I said, I get it. That's why I didn't want to go when I first read it. That was it. So I'm going to ask you to think about your favorite social justice cause, whatever it is. Maybe it's immigrants, maybe it's Ukraine, maybe it's environmental justice. I don't know. There's a thing. There's something big and important to you, something that you feel is wrong in the world, something that has people who feel the opposite way that you do. If you think about those terms, enemy, neighbor, dancer, teacher, what is your relationship with those people who you either know or don't know who feel differently than you do? As I looked at this, I feel, at least it has been true for me, that seeing the other as the enemy is the beginner phase. It's a phase. It's the beginner phase. It may be a necessary phase. I don't know. I'm not an expert at anything except me. And if I'm thinking about the world of social justice and I'm seeing that other as enemy, I'm probably either yelling really loud or avoiding. That's my my guess of what that's like. So people do with diabetes. They're either yelling really loud or they're avoiding doing the things they need to do. Or maybe, can it move to the annoying neighbor? I imagine, say, someone on my block who has a different ideological way of looking at the world. I don't know, but they have a cat. I have a cat. Maybe it's dogs. Maybe it's a garden. I don't know. They have something like what I have. I have a cat. Can I talk with them out at the mailbox about their cat, their dog, their garden? Something, anything, not the actual topic, but getting to know this person as a human being. I'm looking at Eric, he shared a good story. Yeah, what do I find? What do I find in that person where we can connect? Because there's places we can't connect, but where can we connect? And maybe over time, you can move to a relationship where we are dancers. In my way of imagining how this might be a place where we're with someone who does not think the way that we do, and maybe we actually talk a little bit about the topic. Dancing. Yeah, I'm dancing in a big project in my own faith tradition, the Plum Village community of engaged Buddhism. There's a very senior teacher, and that teacher has a very different way of looking at how we're supposed to move in the world. And I am working a grassroots effort to do things differently in the Midwest. And I have been considering him before I ever looked at this or thought about this. I am dancing with him. He holds a position of power and influence, and if I really get him upset, all my efforts are going to be probably going nowhere. So I'm dancing with this person, and we are talking about the topic. Yeah. We saw a little dance here. Yeah, we had one person that is invited to the dance but won't come. And we keep going back and we keep asking. And sometimes our movements through this dance are coordinated together, and sometimes they're all bumpy, a little bit out of sync. And we just keep coming back and ask, can you join the dance? People join the dance when they're ready. You may not be ready. Maybe none of us in this room are ready for the big thing. And maybe we have to move through these other phases before we get there. Maybe we have to, I don't know. But maybe, after some time, we can reach a point where we see the other as a teacher. Probably not teaching us the stuff that the teacher thinks they want to teach us. But we might be able to see that shifts occur within us, shifts occur outside of us, shifts can occur in the other. Nothing stays the same in the world, anywhere, anytime. Things are constantly shifting. So I look back and I think, what has diabetes taught me, and how can this apply to other places? Even if, I hope you do, you just look at what is this thing that's important to me, and how am I relating to the others who carry that thing? How am I relating with them? Is it enemy? Is it annoying neighbor? Is it dancing? Maybe it is dancing. Personally, I think getting to the dancing stage is pretty important. How can we change the world for the better if we remain enemies? We have to move through some other phases to actually have it work. Things that diabetes taught me over 50 years. One is that the way I started was not necessarily the best way. And that we are always, always, always in relationship with everything and everyone. We are in relationship. The relationship might be complete estrangement, but that's a relationship. And it matters. How we are in relationship matters. And the final teaching for me is everything changes. I change. Everything changes. So I thank you all for being here with me today and your kind attention.